Welcome to the Full Minded with Alyssa Bette podcast, where my mission is to normalize the human experience. I believe there's power in authenticity and building a community immersed in it. I plan on bringing you on an in-depth and transparent journey of my life through solo episodes. I will also be interviewing a range of individuals who are willing to share their unique stories. On this podcast, we will dive into topics such as mental health, heartbreak, loss, change, trauma, self-love, and every other topic that makes up the human experience. While I do my very best to provide you insight and knowledge on these subject matters, this podcast is not a substitute for professional help. I am not a licensed therapist. I am simply a human sharing my experiences with the intent to help people feel less alone. If you are suffering, please consult with a licensed professional. Thank you so much for tuning in and enjoy the episode. On today's episode of Full Minded with Alyssa Bette, I interview one of my dear friends, Dan Edwards. For those of you that don't know Dan is an amazing individual who has faced so many challenges in his life, and he's such a beautiful example of turning pain into power. It's truly inspiring. I know he inspires so many people, his whole community, his following, myself included. I'm honored to have him be my very first guest on today's podcast. Dan is actually a co-host on his own podcast called Coffin Over Comfort Zone. Fabulous podcast. Definitely check it out. 10 out of 10 recommend. And today we dive into picking up the pieces after loss or change. We went into this podcast blind. We had no script. We were just like, fuck it, let's wing it. We both had questions prepared for one another that we read to each other for the first time on the podcast and answered. So it was just very authentic, very genuine. We had a lot of good banter, a lot of back and forth. He's such an insightful person. I truly can't wait to listen to the podcast again. I know we just finished recording it, but I can't wait to listen to it. It was truly an honor, and I can't wait to have him back for more episodes. So we hope you enjoy listening to this podcast as much as we enjoyed making it. This is a great podcast to listen to if you are enduring some type of loss or change in your life right now and you need some motivation or you need some tools to help get you through it. And it's just going to help you feel less isolated as well. I think the biggest thing, we talk about this in the podcast, is having community and having a network of people that we can rely on and listen to and be inspired by that doesn't make us feel so alone. So we definitely believe this podcast episode will do that for you. Enjoy. Hi, guys. Welcome back to another episode of Full Minded with Alyssa Bette. I am your host, Alyssa, and today I have a very, very special guest with me. His name is Dan Edwards. Dan, welcome.
Hello. Thank you.
Thanks for coming on. You're my very first guest ever.
Hey, I like it. Honestly,
So
it's been some time in the works. You know what I mean? Like just setting it up and everything. But I'm always glad for conversation, especially with people that want to have conversation too. So it's always rewarding.
Absolutely.
So, and it's you too. So it's awesome.
Yeah, you love me and I love you. You're great. I've looked up to you for a while now, so I feel honored that you agreed to come on this podcast and
thank you.
Talk about all the nitty-gritty of life.
Thank you. And you know how it's been a minute since I've been on the mics because Dan and I have been taking some time from our own podcast. So it's so if I'm rusty, just let me know. See, like Dan, you don't have your flow. You got to work on it.
Hey, no judgment. You're the first guest. Do you want to kind of explain to everybody because this was your idea, this topic, actually. I'm going to give you full credit for that. What we're going to dive into today.
Well, because even from our last conversations that we've had, when we were throwing out ideas and stuff like that, what was it? Loss, change, and grief. Is that what,
Yes.
Those are what it's all about, even from the conversation
Truly.
when you were on our cast, those are the kind of things that that's the human experience. Like that's what the human experience is about. That's where it forms from. That's what we take into. That's what we take from one relationship to another relationship, and I'm not talking intimate relationship, but just any type of relationship.
Right.
Person you see on the street, person you work with, person you live with, no matter who they are, loss is surrounding that. There's grief that comes from whatever relationship that you had before, even just physically moving from a place to a place, right? Like not even necessarily the people, but the place itself, your comfort level there and your experiences that came along with it, right? So change is constantly happening. That is something, I think I learned that maybe like 4 years ago. No. Yeah, it's about maybe 4 years ago. On a cellular level, like every 7 years, your cells are different from the ones that were here the 7 years prior to that. Did you know that?
I did, actually.
You shed. So it's like on a cellular level, you're changing.
We're always changing.
You're always changing. So to deny that, to refute that, to be reluctant towards that, to be resistant towards that, that goes against everything it means to be human.
Absolutely. And Dan and I have actually got some questions for each other that we don't know what the questions are. We haven't revealed them yet. So that could be anything. But I do want to ask you, since we're talking about change right now in depth, would you say you have an accepting or a hostile attitude towards change?
An accepting or hostile attitude. I want to give clear-cut answers to some things because I want to be more deliberate. That's actually one of the things that I'm working on with myself over the last couple of years. But for this question in particular, I want to say it's a bit of both. And the reason why I say that is because at the beginning, when you are experiencing some form of change, right? When I've experienced some form of change, I haven't always been welcoming to that change. I haven't always looked at that change as something that, I want to be a part of or something that I'm accepting right off the bat. Now, I've cultivated a mindset that I can understand why things are changing and why things are necessary that they change. So I haven't always been the way that I am now when it comes to change. And it also can depend on the degree of which, of what the scenario is. Like, let's say we're talking about, let's go back as far as my spinal cord injury, right? So, for your listeners who don't know, I'm a C5, C6 quadriplegic. I've been paralyzed from the neck down since in August of 2006. And so, but I'm at the point now where I live on my own, blah, blah, blah. But at the time when that happened, that was something that I was very hostile towards. That may not have been the case for people looking from the outside, because, social media was just getting started when I had my accident. But I guess like newspaper articles and what people heard from word of mouth through other people, like, oh, Dan's in high spirits, Dan's this, Dan's great, Dan's inspiring, Dan's great. Yeah, let's be real. Dan, are we allowed to swear on this?
Oh, fuck yeah. Are you kidding me? Have you met me?
I know you, but I didn't know for a second. I was like, is Alyssa,
oh my God,
is she going to downplay herself throughout?
Oh my God, no. This whole podcast is about normalizing the human experience, and my human experience is fucking shit fuck. So
oh my God.
please swear.
Okay,
I remember asking that on your podcast too. I always ask that when I'm a guest because I'm a fucking sailor, right? So I'm just like, can I be?
Well, that's why I remember how you were before we started recording. And then you actually kind of switched up a little bit, but then you got back into it and I was like, okay.
Yes. I was like polite. I was like, oh, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
And then I was like,
start you were, but then it's like eventually, okay, oh, there she is. Okay.
I can switch it up. Actually, I had to do, I was speaking on a panel for mental health.
Right.
And it was a religious event. And I was so scared because I was like, I am just very offensive to some people. But actually looking back at the recording, I feel like I blacked out that whole time because I was just so nervous about saying the F word.
Fair, which is fair.
Yeah. But I didn't at all. And I just seemed so proper. And I was like, wow, okay, I can really reel it in when I'm trying. Anyway, long answer. Yeah,
so long answer. Yeah. So what I was saying was, like, so from everyone outside looking in, they saw this, incredible, inspiring person, blah, blah, blah. But for me, and also the people that maybe were closer to me, like, Dan's a fucking mess. Like, Dan's a disaster. Like, he is trying, but he's not doing well. But like, to everyone else, it was like, hey, he's oh man, he's killing it. He's so good. He's got this great attitude about it.
Right.
And so my relationship with change is definitely one of more accepting of acceptance. It is now, but that isn't to say that it was a switch, like a transactional moment that said, hey, I am now like this when it comes to change. I am now like, and I don't think, I'm really having a hard time thinking anything in life is transactional, right? Like, there's some things I think that are, if I think about it long enough, probably by the end of this conversation, I'll come up with some examples that things are, because I know we're human and we do have conditions when it comes to relationships. But when it comes to acceptance specifically, it's not transactional. It is a process. It is a gradual process. So, for example, when I wake up in the morning and I see my wheelchair, right? It's the first thing I see. It's next to my bed. There are some days, now some days it's easier than others. I don't have to repeat this every morning, but some days I do have to repeat to myself, this is my circumstance. These are my circumstances. This chair is part of my circumstances. And that is part of my acceptance process, to accept that this is where I'm at. Because some people will say, oh, he's fully accepted that he's in a wheelchair. No, I'm not. I haven't.
Right.
And I don't know if I've said this before to you, but when I dream, when I fall asleep, I'm not in a wheelchair. Like, in my dreams. Yeah.
No, you never told me that.
Yeah. My dreams, I'm not in a chair. And if I am sitting down, sitting down for a period of time in the dream, I stand up eventually. Like, I'm never always sitting in a dream. I'm standing, I'm running, I'm flying at some points, I'm swimming. But like, walking is something I regularly do when I fall asleep, when I dream. And so to wake up from that and to see the wheelchair, it's not as intense and as difficult as it used to be, because this is going to throw you for one. When I originally had my accident, those first like 2 weeks, probably about three weeks, I was like addicted to sleeping. I wanted to sleep so bad, because every time I woke up, I was paralyzed or I couldn't move. Right. So when I would go to sleep, I would this is what I thought was the life that I was living. This is what I thought was normal. My normal was when I was sleeping. And then when I would wake up, this is abnormal. And then I go back. So it was very, very challenging in the beginning. And so I've had to remind myself, verbally say this out loud, that these are my circumstances. This is my circumstance today. And it doesn't have to be the same by the end of the day, but this is how this day is going to begin. And how do we want it to end? Well, that decides on the mindset that we bring to this day. That depends on, the mindset, the outlook, how we handle the things that come. So it's just, like we said, it's ever going, it's constant, but so definitely not as hostile as it used to be, but it's a process. It's a continuous process. Oh, I like that question. I do.
And thank you. Absolutely. And going back to the sleep thing, I think in a lot of cases of loss or great heartbreak, sleep is the best escape. I know when I go through a breakup, I go to bed so early, like 7 p.m., 8 p.m. Like, as soon as I start to feel some sort of sadness, I'm just like, you know what, fuck this. And there's that peace that comes with sleeping, and your heart is kind of resting for that time. Your heart and your brain are resting, and they don't feel the pain as intensely until you wake up. And there's even that moment, right before you're fully conscious in the morning, where you're just still living in dream world, and your subconscious is running it, and then it kind of hits you. And so I think that's relative to a lot of losses. I think a lot of people would be able to connect with that.
Oh, no doubt. And it's and one of the things that like I said, I was addicted to it because it just is so natural. It's something the body needs too. And then like, it's so easy to want that because you're just, you're so much peace when you're sleeping. One of the things that I wanted to say to you when I got on here, this isn't one of my questions, but because you had mentioned to me about your previous relationship and that it ended, I did want to ask you about what is it like to go through something, I want to use the word traumatic publicly. Like, what is it like to go through like hardship publicly? Because, and the reason I asked this is because when I had my accident, I didn't have a choice. It was all public. I was still in the hospital and everyone found out about the worst moment in my life. Everyone was talking about it well before I actually got to engage, or I didn't get to initiate the conversation about what was going on in my life and how bad it was. Everyone was just out there talking about it well before I even said a word about anything. So I was just wondering, like, because I know you like to post things on your social media, you're very active on it. Some people aren't as active with the relationships as others are, blah, blah, blah. But with this relationship specifically, what was it like to go through that hardship? So I guess that change part, but what was it like to go through it publicly?
That's actually a really good question. And it's not really one that I've touched on. I feel like I've been very selective and intentional with what I share with the public after this relationship had ended. And the relationship dynamic was very unique. We had a long distance relationship. We actually talk about the whole relationship before I even meet him on your podcast. If you wanted to hear the before the scenes, you can go to Dan's podcast.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Yeah.
Often over comfort zone. And now we're looking at picking up the pieces after the relationship ended. That's kind of a full circle moment. Hey.
It is, yeah.
It was pretty brutal. I'll be honest with you. It was amazing to be in a relationship and have it be so public because there was that level of support from people I didn't know that were cheering us on. It was so beautiful. I remember when we first met, I had hundreds of people following me, just, watching to see how this all unraveled. But I would say that was single-handedly the most painful part of it as well, because I had people I didn't even know DMing me, asking me what happened before I even posted the blog about the breakup, because I did blog about the breakup solely because I wanted to be transparent with my followers, but I also wanted the message to stop. And I felt like if I posted, I don't even know if I've admitted that to myself, but I felt like if I posted something, just letting everybody know, it was just, I wouldn't be getting all these DMs all the time. What happened? Explain it to me. Where, because people were recognizing that the pictures had been deleted before I had even dropped that blog. So I was getting messages about it that it just felt super invasive, even though I totally know that these people meant well and they're just used to it. They're used to, that's fair. They were used to this level of authenticity that I was providing them with throughout the entire relationship. Of course, they had a right to expect that I was going to explain to them what happened. And I never did actually share the story of what happened, and I don't think I am going to.
Oh, you don't have? Yeah, absolutely.
No, No, and I know you're not asking that. I'm just, kind of reflecting on everything. But just because there are two people involved, and I'd have to explain so many levels of it, right? It's not just one thing. God. It's a whole, I'd have to explain the entire dynamic of the relationship. I'd have to explain everything for it to make sense to people.
Oh my God. Can I interject for a second?
Yes.
See, when it comes to people asking, like, what happened in your relationship with someone, whether it's public or not, like even just people that, within your neighborhood or whatever, your social group, when they ask you this question, I am always hesitant to talk about it in its entirety because there's so many layers of it that you have to actually give to a person in order for them to understand your scope, from where you're coming from, the decisions that were made within the relationship or why it was terminated. Because like, there are people that have asked me about some of my relationships that, not every specific detail were public, but like, eventually you get to that part where, some pictures start missing or some pictures are lacking, different seasons come up, it's Christmas, you're not posting. And then it's like, hey, hey, is something going on, blah, blah, blah. And then I've legitimately had to be very reluctant to saying certain things because I didn't know what their scope, I didn't know what they were comfortable or sharing with anybody else. And then, so oh my goodness. So I just, I totally understand what you're saying when it comes to, there's two people here involved. Like this was a relationship, or it is a relationship. It's just, the dynamic's different. Like it's so, you can't just automatically be like, I'm just going to throw all my shit about this relationship at you without giving you the entirely other side of this coin that exists.
Absolutely. And I didn't want to be disrespectful towards him in any way. I remember my dad reading the blog, and I mean, the people that are very close to me know what went down. They know exactly what happened. Yep. And my dad was like, that was very well written. You could have said a lot of things. You could have you said a lot of things that, were true, and you didn't. And you protected him in that, and you protected you in that. And that was very commendable, because I just didn't feel like those details needed to be shared on the World Wide Web.
Absolutely. So one of the things that I had written down, actually I didn't write this, I just took it. I took a screenshot of, because when you told me about the breakup, and then I was like, oh, I haven't really been on social media with my one account or whatever, right? So I hadn't seen it. I went back and I read, and I took a screenshot of this one part of that you had said, and this is my favorite part, and this is what I wanted to, this isn't a question, I just wanted to talk about this. So what you said was, however, what I will say is this: healthy relationships can end, and that's okay. You can outgrow people you love. There doesn't need to be constant fighting to know that your paths no longer align. There's wisdom in knowing when you are no longer gaining what you need from the relationship. Relationships ending are never easy. Emotions tend to come in waves after the relationship ends. Grief of what could have been sinks in. It can be a roller coaster of emotions, to say the least. My favorite part about this is the simplicity, and there's wisdom in knowing that you're no longer gaining from what you need from a relationship. And I wish so much that part of our upbringing as kids was like highlighting how challenging this is just for people in general. Like, I wish we could have understood this at a younger age. I wish we didn't have to get to like the point where we're in our late 20s and or and 30s. And just, for some people, don't even understand this until, they're in their 50s. And it's like, I wish we could have gotten the knowledge and the wisdom about this and made this normal. Like this, I wish that was, the part of the human experience too. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. And I think that was such a big lesson learned for me, because in my prior relationships, it had been, quite turmoilic, and there had been really big and bad reasons why it needed to end. There was fighting, and there was this, or, there was like not a level of loyalty that was required, in order to date me, whatever it may be. But this relationship was very, we had hit our ceiling with each other, and that there was no more room to grow together and the same direction we wanted to, at least. So it was very, I don't want to say the breakup was super cordial, because I wouldn't say that, but it was healthy. It was very matter of fact. It was very clean cut. There was, there's been no communication since. It's just, it was very necessary. And I struggled with that in my therapy session. I was like, I don't understand, I understand why this is ending, but it doesn't feel like it's bad so that it should end. And my therapist taught me that exact post, that I was sharing, is that it doesn't need to be turmoilic and abusive and terrible. And there doesn't need to be screaming and fighting for things to end. It's okay. There's so many people that come in and out of our lives. It's impossible for all of them to be a forever relationship. It's okay for it to have only been, it was a beautiful year and 7 months that we shared together. We learned a lot about each other. We learned a lot. We healed a lot. There was a lot of love there. But it doesn't mean that either of us are a failure, and it doesn't mean that we as a whole are a failure. It just means, that was our time.
It's not for nothing. And that's one thing that like people, that's a common thing. Exactly. That's it right there. Yeah. People say
I wasted so many years. Yeah.
X amount of years. Yep.
No.
Yeah. Oh,
I don't think that's a healthy way of looking at it, because, whether you hate them in that moment or not, or it is cordial, you still learned a lot and you still gained a lot, whether it be experiences that you recognize, okay, this is not the love I want forever, or this is the love I want forever, you still learn things and you still chose to be with them. You still loved them to a certain degree in order to be in that relationship. So yeah, looking at it as wasted time that's a waste of time.
And that's important, because when you do that, it's like you're starting to like taking shots at yourself and like your self-worth. Yes. It's like, oh, I'm this because I took all this time to do that, and this was all for nothing. And then you start impeding or hindering yourself for like the next relationship, whether it's an intimate one or a romantic one, or even just a friendship that you build with the next person that you meet. It's like you start doubting everything about yourself. And it's just this constant shame that you perpetuate on yourself just because you think and you've convinced yourself that, oh, that 6 years or 4 years or 8 months or whatever was a waste of time. It's like, what? Was it?
No, absolutely. And that's only something that I've just recently come to learn. I feel like I always, either took all the blame or placed all the blame. I'd split on them and think they were all good or all bad, and split on myself even. And I wouldn't be able to compartmentalize even that it's okay for it to end. It doesn't mean that anybody's not worthy. And being broken up with is hard too. In past, when I have been broken up with by somebody versus me doing the breaking up.
Okay. Yeah. I see what you're saying.
I feel like that's tricky. Yeah. One of my friends just called me yesterday and they had been broken up with, and we had this long conversation about how that it always seems to feel worse, than versus like a mutual decision to break up, or versus you being the one to break up. Even if that's the direction it needs to go in, it always feels worse somehow, because there's that level of rejection that you feel. Yes. And you're like, I'm not good enough. This person's letting me go. So obviously there's something wrong with me, when that's not the case at all. That person just could be maybe more in tune with what's happening. They could be an avoidant. They could be self-sabotaging. It could be healthy, or it could be not healthy. So to take, whatever somebody's doing and own it as your own is not something I'd recommend,
Absolutely. And to the point of the person doing the breaking up, the breaker upper, oh my goodness, I'm losing it.
The breaker upper.
The breaker upper. There's a period in relationships, okay? And I want you to speak to this. Because what I guess I'm talking about in its entirety is anticipatory grief. Have you heard of that? Or anticipatory loss. Have you heard of that?
I haven't, but I feel like I could name exactly what it is.
You've definitely experienced it. So, so within a relationship, what it essentially, there's a period where, let's say, for example, one of my past relationships, we were together for like 3.5, 4 years or something, right? And the last year of the relationship, I essentially had checked out. Like, I had essentially decided in my mind, I'm no longer into this. I don't like this. How do I get out of this? How am I going to process what this looks like afterwards? It's this, all of this anticipation of the loss while you're still in it. Like, you're still in the relationship, but you're anticipating its loss. This is a type of grief that people deal with. And it's one that like, I don't hear enough about. And it's not just simply about, romantic relationships, but even, when you have a loved one, for example, like fighting through cancer. Right. And they're going to die inevitably. The doctor or whatever said, hey, you've got 4 months to live. And it's like, for those 4 months, it's the constant anticipation of this loss. And like, the person is still with you. So it's like you're grieving as they're still literally right with you right there in that moment. And it is so challenging to navigate. But like, it's something now, not as, I don't want to say as extreme, but not as, as heavy as, losing someone to cancer, but like within the relationship dynamic, the romantic relationship dynamic, do you understand? Like, have you experienced?
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's a good one, because you're right. It's not really talked about enough. And I think there's definitely been in past relationships where I'm sitting there on the couch with them or in bed, and I'm just like, this is going to end. This is going to end, and this is going to hurt like a bitch. And I think we all feel that to a certain degree, unless you're completely blindsided by the breakup. or it comes out of nowhere, which can happen because that just happened in my last relationship. That was a very we just decided last minute kind of, okay, this isn't working. But a lot of relationships for me, I've felt that, that kind of fear and that grief prior to it even happening. And they say a lot too that, well, they say, I don't know, scientifically more women are prone to do this, right? So that's why women heal differently after the breakup versus men or all of that. I feel like I just seen a video the other day of a girl talking about how she got over her 5-year relationship in 2 months, that she was checked out,
exactly.
a year in advance. she'd already grieved majority of the relationship ending before it even ended.
Exactly. And that's one of the things. And again, I don't know the science about it either, but you can't deny that there's got to be a component where the anticipatory loss of it, that phase, that grieving process has already begun while you're still in the relationship. So when she ends it or he ends it or whoever ends it, and they find someone, a month later or 2 months later, and not to say that finding another person means you've completed the process, but
right.
Your outlook on life, some people are seamlessly some people seem, she doesn't seem like she's feeling that at all, or he seems like he's moved on quite well. It's because they've been grieving for the last X amount of months and years while actually being in it.
Absolutely. I mean, I do think some people rebound in a way for different reasons, for maybe not having been healed. To cope. That's a big coping one. But no, I totally know what you mean. That was a good one, Dan.
Yeah, that was another. Yeah. See, that's the thing is my questions for you aren't really questions.
They're things you love and admire about me. I love it.
There it is. Yeah. The things are I can guess that, you've experienced and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Do you want me to hit you with another one? Do you want me to hit you?
Yeah.
One of the things that I think we've talked about this before, but I like highlighting this because I think it's an important one to talk about, which is, what are your methods of self-care? What does self-care for Alyssa Bette, what does that look like?
Oh, that's a good one too. My self-care methods.
Yeah.
Definitely top of the list, without a doubt, therapy. I would not be here today for sure without all the therapists that I've gone to in my lifetime. Exercise is a big one. If I'm not moving, I kind of get into a dark spiral. And it's interesting because I'm actually in the heightenedness of struggling with my mental health. I've been pretty good for the last couple months. I feel like I handled that breakup like a champ, but we're in a slower season for the business. We're about to get back into markets for the year, but with it having been so slow, there's so much silence. There's so much, solitude that I've experienced. And on one hand, I can say I'm loving it and I'm listening to podcasts and I'm going to the gym and I'm going on walks for myself. But this last week has really kicked me in the ass, and I am severely suffering with imposter syndrome.
Okay.
And I would say depression is just, I haven't left my bed for a couple of days, which isn't even something that I've shared publicly on social media yet, because if you follow me, I'm just very open with my followers. I think it's important to normalize not being okay, but it's just not even something I've been able to write out yet or talk about.
To get there. Yeah.
So I'm literally speaking about what I'm doing this week to try and get myself through. What were you going to say? Sorry.
I love it. No, I love it. And I wanted to touch on what you said about, you mentioned things have been, with your business right now, it's calm, it's quiet, it's very still. And one of the things that you had mentioned about, it's emotions tend to come in waves, and then you got me thinking about this roller coaster of emotions and stuff like that. But one of the things when it comes to stillness, right, and silence, is it's very reflective. So imagine if, and then in the spirit of picking up the pieces, if the pieces of your life, right, were at the bottom of a pool, And once the water becomes still, then it's reflective. You can now just see them, and it's hard to look at those pieces. Like, but you still have to pick up the damn pieces. Like, you still got to go in the water and go get those pieces. But because the water is still, you can see them clearly. And that's challenging because it takes stillness, it takes silence, it takes quiet and calm to actually see those pieces, to see those things within yourself. That's why there's like an exercise that that people can do where you like stare at your partner and stuff like that, or like even you can do it to a mirror, right? Like I like, you know, do it, and like you just look at yourself and you don't say anything. Don't like highlight on certain features of yourself, or even if you're looking at a person, just stare into their eyes. And what is so daunting about it is that someone is seeing you, someone's looking at you, and that's terrifying. Because that's ultimately the thing we want in relationships. That's ultimately we want as human beings. We want to be seen. We want someone to see us, and we want to be seen for being just us, just to be accepted as us. But that's also the thing that we fear the most, which is showing another person this is who we are. And when you can find someone who can see that and accept that and just deal with that, manage that, comfort that, console that, love that, say yes to that, greet that, everything with that person that they see, it's like, oh my God, like that's, and that's the thing that like I crave about connection. And I'm not saying I get that from literally every single person that I meet, but that is the thing that I am constantly seeking with interactions with people, is just simply to be seen. But that takes time. Like, you know what I mean? That does take time. Absolutely. But I love that you said that about, the whole stillness of things and, the way you're at right now, your mental health hasn't, you've been struggling with it. And that's, as you kept talking, that's what I kept thinking about, is just that calm water and those pieces at the bottom.
I love that analogy.
That you've got to look at. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's beautiful. And so true. And I feel like, the last couple months, I feel like my head has been above the water, and I've been so good, and I've been accepting all these things. And because radical acceptance is huge. It's one key thing that I've learned in therapy, to radically accept your situation, your environment, and what's happening right now is the quickest way through it. Because by living in, what could have been, and what did I do, or what I could have done is this, and this, and this, you torment yourself, and you constantly live in that state, and you don't go forward. And I think that is why I healed so quickly from this breakup, because I was like, this is what's happening. We had a beautiful love. It lasted this long. That's as long as we're supposed to be in each other's lives. What is my next opportunity? And that's when I birthed the idea of starting this podcast. I'm like, I have time to do a passion project now. I have the silence, and I have the time to do it. But this last week, after, sitting in so much stillness, there's a level of fear that comes with looking at the pieces of your life.
Oh,
As peaceful and as amazing as it was for, I feel like the first half, this last week has really got me like, holy fuck, an imposter syndrome.
It's unnerving.
Oh man, we could do a whole episode on imposter syndrome alone, because having mental illness and being a business owner is such an interesting mind fuck. It's such a beautiful but challenging thing. And, there's so many days where I don't feel like a boss babe. I'm like, can I even do this? Like, is this even worth it? Like, what am I doing? Like, cause you never really know what you're doing when you're running a business. Every day you're like, what the fuck? You know a little bit more every day, but you still don't know what you're doing as a whole. You may have a vision, but if you've never done it before, and you're just kind of walking into it blind, right? So there are moments where I have meetings and I wing it, and it works, but you just don't really know, right? So
absolutely, it's such a learning experience. It's a hands-on experience, like running a business. Like I took business marketing in school, but like when you actually start to actively try to put the pieces together of a business, to run it, to, from the ground up and stuff like that, to, put your own money, into things. And like, it's like, this is, you can read as much as you want, but until you actually fail at it here and, you know, succeed over here and then fail some more over there and then fail 4 more times over there. But then, you know, succeed over, it's like, that's when you actually, you know, learn. That's when you actually learn it. And it's very unsettling sometimes. It's very unsettling.
Absolutely. And success, as beautiful as it is, there comes with that level of fear. Am I going to lose it all? Like it's just that human way of thinking of, okay, this is beautiful. Kind of like when you're in a relationship and you're like, what if it ends? You just think worst case scenario. You just fixate on that. And that's kind of, the state that I've been stuck in with my own mental. But I wanted to share this with you.
Yeah.
I had a call from somebody that I am friends with yesterday, and we hadn't spoken in a while, and they called to share what they're going through right now. And it's really dark and it's really fucked up and it's really sad. And I was crying on the conversation. I didn't let them know I was crying because I needed to be strong for them. But in that, they said, I know we haven't talked in a long time, but because you advocate for mental health, I figured it was okay to call you. And I was like, oh my God, yes. And it was like in that moment, I was like, of course you're on the right path, Alyssa. Of course you're doing this. This person didn't was struggling with the will to live, and they felt like they could call you. This is your calling. This is what you're supposed to be doing. This is beautiful. And it was such a moment where it shifted me from, can I do this? Am I worth it? Am I going to succeed? To, I don't have a fucking choice. This is the path I'm on, and this is what I'm called to do, and I'm fucking doing it. Because there needs to be this voice. There needs to be people normalizing the human experience, like what I'm doing with this podcast too. It's so human to feel these things. And it blows my mind that mental health is as stigmatized as it is, even for how advanced Canada is, because you can have everything in the world. You can have all the money in the world, all the riches, the most, amazing partner you can ask for, everything. But if you don't have your mental, you cannot even fathom what you've got. It needs to be prioritized over anything. Mental health is everything, because you can lose it all very quickly by not even being able to understand and, fully comprehend what you've got in front of you. It's crucial. It's literally crucial.
Absolutely. Like the mind itself, like the brain doesn't stop developing until we're like 25. And when, a child is walking and, trying to figure out how to just physically do physical things on its own, right? It stops like those developmental, that developmental, like physical developmental stage, like ends like well before 25, well before 25. And your mind is still figuring out how to develop. And so when you don't take care of the mind long enough, man, like what did you think was going to happen by the time you reach 30 or 35? You know what I mean? Like, we hear the term midlife crisis, and it's something that, you grew up hearing and like wondering, like, is this it? Am I hitting this thing? And now it's like, wait, we've been underprepared for this. This makes sense why we're like this at this age.
Absolutely.
Like, what the hell is this? Why'd you throw me into this fire, man? Like, it's like society hasn't still actually, I shouldn't say all society. I think Western society hasn't figured out that, like, you've got to properly take care of what's going on between the ears. And one of the main things that I think we ignore is the network that people have. Like, your friend reached out to you because they felt that you are someone who talks about this sort of thing often. And guess what, Alyssa? The same thing happens to me. I have people in my DMs that reach out that I haven't spoken to in years and stuff. And some of them can be my close friends, but we've never had these kind of conversations before. But because they know this is the kind of stuff I post, this is the kind of stuff I talk about, they know that that's where an outlet is. It's like when you're in a house, right? And you're looking out, you just moved into a new apartment, right? And so what are the first things you do? Well, you're like, okay, should I put the TV there? I can put a table there with the lamp there. But then you're like, oh, wait, but then it's too far from that outlet and I don't have enough outlets. Or even when people are building houses, they put these outlets, sockets all over the room so that they have enough of them. Guess what? You got to do the same thing in life. You got to know where your outlets are. You got to know where to plug into when you need that power, when you need that juice. And when you don't know where your networks are, then you're stuck in a situation where you got the couch on the other side of the room. You got to plug in your iPhone to the other side of the room. And now you're just uncomfortable on the couch trying to read this lax text message that like someone sent to you, but your phone died when it was happening. Bro, it becomes a mess. But the point is you got to know where your network is. And your friend, they knew. I don't know if, they knew where their outlet was. They knew where an outlet was. They knew where you were. They know that you talk about this sort of thing. And because it was normal to talk about with you and not, I'm not telling you you're just, a mundane socket on a wall, but you've got the juice. You know what I'm saying? You've got the juice is what I'm saying.
Thanks for clarifying. No, and I don't take that stuff lightly, right? I feel it's such an honor to be that for people. And I get a lot of DMs too, even from people that I don't know. I had someone reach out just being like, hey, I'm going through a breakup and I don't know what to do. Or, hey, I need to break up with my partner because of this. Can I get your advice on it? I get a lot of messages over like social media. Yeah, a lot. And people just being like, I had someone message me the other day saying, hey, I know we don't know each other well, but I got diagnosed with BPD and ADHD. And I'm just so thrilled to finally have something to be able to identify, how my brain works with. And I just wanted to tell that to you because I know you also have those diagnoses, and I've been following your journey for so long. And I'm like, absolutely. I'm so proud of you. I'm happy that you're taking this, you're receiving this so well. For me, figuring out what I had was, puzzle pieces connecting. It made me feel amazing. So it's just cool that I just feel honored. I feel honored that people share those things with me, those most deep and intrinsic inner workings of their life. This person that called me yesterday was like, I don't know who else to talk to. I don't know if there's anyone else I could share this with to the depth that I'm sharing with you. And that's just, there's like not really any words to explain that. That just
Alyssa,
feels like
that is scary to me when I think about it. Like that sounds so daunting to me that like people walk around this earth before the time of social media, just like erase social media completely, right? Like you're connecting to these people through the internet, remove the internet from the equation. And what the hell were people doing before that? You know what I mean? Whoa, did I just lose you?
Oh, yeah, you did just lose me. Repeat what you just said. Sorry. You said
goodness.
That's so scary to me. And then we start.
Yeah. Oh, so what I was saying was like, that is like, it sounds so daunting. Like when people reach out to you like this, that sounds so daunting and scary to me, because if you removed the internet from the equation, right? Like let's say you moved just social media from the equation. What were people doing before then? Like how were people connecting to a person who talks about this stuff? Because to find somebody to talk about this stuff, to talk about mental health, to talk about mental illness, to talk about this day-to-day struggles that you go through, to talk about depression, to talk about, any type of level of anxiety that you're going through. How do you find this person? And how do you, is it normal to talk about this amongst your social group at the bar with friends, or at coffee with, a group of friends, or in the hallway with friends, or at work with friends? Like, is it normal to do that then? But it's like, how are they figuring that out? And even today, in a world where the world is so connected, but also so disconnected, like, how are people finding their people? How do you find your people in all this, man? Because now you're just out there swimming and saying, hey, let me just talk to this person on the other side of the planet who I'm just following through social media. They'll understand.
Absolutely. I don't even want to think about what people were doing before that, because we're just getting to a place now where it's starting to be more normalized, and businesses are like, sure, you can take a mental health day, but
right. That used to be never a thing.
That was not a thing at all. And I know even people still don't feel comfortable calling in and saying, I need a mental health day, because of the places that they work for, the corporations they work for. So it's wild to me, but it's just definitely a sign that we need to both keep doing what we're doing.
Absolutely.
And telling our stories and being authentic.
Hit me with a question.
I was just going to say.
Yeah. I was like,
so the question I have for you is, what are 3 pieces of advice you would offer someone who is currently dealing with a loss in their life? Like they just went through a terrible loss, and you're looking at them in the face. What's the first thing you would say to them?
First thing,
but I want 3 from you.
3. First thing I would say to them, is I would ensure that person in that moment, in that day right there, is that they're taken care of. Like if they're okay. Like, and if I was to translate that or to revert that to what that would ask that person to say to themselves, is essentially ground yourself in that moment right then. When you realize something is terrible and something is awful that's going on, I'm not saying ignore what you're feeling. Feel what you're feeling. Be there with what you're feeling. Like, just simply be there with what you're feeling. The next thing kind of coincides with something that we've spoken about before, is knowing where your networks are. And you have to go to your people. You have to go to your people. There was a friend of mine. She's on the other side of the planet now. Or no, she's on the other side of the country now. Something had happened. I don't want to get into details, but something had happened, and she called me and she was crying. She was in hysterics. And I was like, hey, okay, I'm here. I didn't say that like, it's okay, stop crying. No. I'm here.
Yeah.
When someone comes to you with an issue or they're in hysterics, don't ask them to stop crying. Obviously if the situation is dire and like the fire's got to get put out, you're crying because your house is on fire. Like, okay, different scenario, like completely, call 911 if that's the situation. Right. But like if someone is simply just like in it, they're in their feelings right then and there in that moment. Don't say, hey, calm down, settle down. No. I'm here. Keep going. Let whatever the hell that is out, but I'm here. Just simply repeat that over and over. So that coincides with knowing where your network is, right? So 1, I would just make sure that they're grounded, they're safe in the moment that they're at. 2, know where your network is, know where your people are, go to where your people are. There's a saying that I can't remember who said it. I can't remember where I first heard it. But I think it was like Marshawn Lynch or something like that. No, it wasn't. It was Ricky Williams. He has a podcast. I listened to it. This is maybe a year ago. He's like, go where you're celebrated, not where you're tolerated. And like that, that in my mind,
love that.
Yeah, that in my mind, it sits in my mind and it tells me about hard moments that this, and even challenging moments, not just like, when, it shit's real, but like in even any type of moment, like, live where you're celebrated. Like, don't go where people just tolerate you, man. Go where people celebrate you, man.
Yeah.
So that, like I said, like that coincides with number 2. I guess number 3 would be, it takes a while. Acceptance is a process. I know we've talked about this a little bit more, but remember that this is going to come in waves. This is going to come in waves. You're going to have a great day on Tuesday. But guess what? Wednesday, the sky might literally be falling. You know what I mean? Thursday, hope is something, I've read a book. Hope is something that comes in the morning. Hope is something that, people find at the beginning of a week, the beginning of a year, the beginning of a month. Like there's hopefulness that tends to follow when it comes to 1st of March or 1st of May, 1st of June, stuff like that. Right. Or it's the first day of spring, right? You know what I mean? People get hopeful, right? The morning is filled with hope. So, and one of the things that I love about the life that I live, I want to live in someone asked me like, what kind of world do you want to live in? I responded with, I want to live in a place where people go to bed excited about the possibilities of tomorrow. And I mean, everyone, like, from the people living on the street to the people living in the penthouse, right? Like I want everyone to go to sleep hopeful for tomorrow, because or hopeful for what the day may bring, because that's all life is. It's nothing but possibility. So what you're going through, ground yourself in that moment, know where your network is, and oh my goodness, it's going to come in waves, but be hopeful in the morning, be hopeful on this next season. And just, I know it may suck from time to time, but, you know, there are bright spots on cloudy days. There are, you know, terrible, shitty moments on sunny days, right? Like it goes both ways, right? You know what I mean? I'm in a program right now, and there's people, we have conversations about, you know, what if that happens? What if this happens? And what if that happens? You know, we're talking about different things that happen in our placements for the program that I'm in. And it's like, you know, I'm always asking people, like, what ifs cut both ways? Like, don't just swing what ifs in one direction.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Swing it in both ways.
Yeah.
What ifs cut, but what if that doesn't happen? What if this doesn't happen? What if that, hey, what if it does happen? Like,
what if it's amazing?
Yeah. What if it's amazing? What if it's great? Oh, what if it's terrible? Yeah. What if it's the best thing that ever happened to you?
Absolutely.
It is. Stop thinking about negative and positive. It just simply is. And just deal with it when you get there, and like handle it, because otherwise you're just stressing about the nightmare before you're even asleep.
You're ruining your quality of life in those moments right before you go to sleep. Exactly, for no reason, because it may or may not turn out that way.
Exactly. So
that was beautiful. I'll be calling you when I endure my next loss, because wow.
Oh man.
Well articulated, Dan. That was you hit a lot of points there.
Oh, thank you. And to highlight, you know, I don't know if this was one of your questions or not for me, but one of the things that I had written down was in terms of, because I mentioned that I mentioned before that people have said, you know, when I had my accident originally, people were like, oh, he's so amazing, he's great, he's so inspirational. And then, you know, I started doing like public speaking, motivational speaking, maybe 3-4 years after my accident. So 2009, 2010. And then I really started getting into it in 2016 when Sarnia had a bunch of youths committing suicide that year. We had, like, at one point there was like 3 in like 4 weeks or something like that. It was crazy. And these were all like high school kids.
I think I remember this. Do you remember what year?
This was 2011, 2012.
Oh, 2000.
Yeah. When that happened, it was around 2011, 2012. I started speaking around then, but I didn't really take off in it until like 2015, 16. But like, it's because of those times why I was like, okay, I have to do this. Like, I have to do this.
Absolutely.
And one of the things, like, you know, people would ask me about, you know, about my hardship and something like this. And they're like, you know, saying I'm great and I'm this and I'm amazing. I remember reverting back to the things I speak about when I give one of my talks, is that, like, my friends, the people that I keep around me, the people that I had around me at the time of my accident, were the reason that I was able to come out of it the way I did. Like, I don't want to say failure was never an option for me, but this, like, you and I being here in this moment, having this conversation, me having this outlook and mindset that I have right now, I almost look at this as like, there was no other option for me. My friends weren't going to give me another option. They just didn't. In that moment, when I had my accident, and this happened, I had people, my peers, came to the hospital when I wasn't even allowed to leave the floor. I wasn't even allowed to leave the floor of the hospital, let alone the building itself. They would simply just come to the hospital and take me out. They would just take me places. My one buddy's pushed me down the street. This is in Parkwood. This is in London, Ontario, Parkwood Hospital, down on Commissioners in Wellington, right down there. They pushed me to, do you know the most dangerous intersection the most accident-prone intersection in London? This was back around the time of my accident. I don't know if it still is, but I wouldn't be shocked if it is. It's right where there's 2 hospitals at that intersection, which is Commissioners in Wellington. That's the intersection that they were pushing me across from.
Wild.
Yeah. And to go to McDonald's. They're like, he's got to get out of here. He's got to get out. He needs to see and eat proper food. Stop with this bullshit. hospital food. And of course, I had diarrhea for the rest of the week because my body hadn't eaten that food in so long. But like, it didn't matter to them.
Yeah.
It's like, this is our boy. This is what we're going to do for him. And I had so many friends calling me, reaching out. And then even after, after the initial accident and everything died down a little bit, like I know my friends were going away to school, but I had so many people coming to me to help me. And why I say this is because you're not meant to do this alone. Like you're not. Like you weren't designed to do. There's a reason why humans, when they touch each other, like skin to skin contact, there's a reason why certain chemicals start to explode within our minds, like inside our brains. Like there's a reason for that. Oxytocin, there's a reason why it just boom when you have skin to skin contact. Why? Because you were meant to. It's not there by accident. You're supposed to hug a human. You're supposed to hold hands with a human. You're supposed to embrace another human. Like this is all stuff that this is all stuff that we have to do for each other. Yeah. And so one of the things I had written down, so this is like my intro to this thing, and I want to get your take on this. When you find in relationships with people, I see one of the common things that I see get posted with people. I'm not saying you, because I don't know if you have posted this or not, but people like to emphasize that their partner is their quote unquote, their everything. And I find that sometimes to be very dangerous because I didn't have one person like carry me through my grief, carry me through my loss. My buddy came over, a buddy of mine came over a few weeks ago and said, he's going through this heartbreak. He's going through this breakup and stuff like that. And one of the things that I emphasized to him was that you got to tell the boys, you got to tell us what you're going through so that, and now I didn't say this part to him, but I'm going to say this on the cast, so that I'm not the only person to help you through it, because 7 of us can carry you better than one of us can.
Absolutely.
7 of us can carry you more efficiently and effectively than one of us can. And I feel like when you're in a relationship with a person and you call that person your everything, that means your cheerleader, your nurse, your doctor, your physician, your confidant, your go-to, your lover, your friend, your best friend. Like, I understand that a person can be some of those things for you, but asking a person to simply be all of those things to you, I think you're setting yourself up to fail.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I do agree with that. I have definitely in past phrased things like that because I believed it. I believed it. I believed it at one point that these people were single-handedly the reason that I was being kept alive and worthy of love and all that shit. Now that I have found love within myself, I don't believe that at all. I believe that they're one person. They're not the world. I'm the world. Yeah. Like I have everything I need within myself, to fully function and bring that to the table. But there's nobody else in the world that can complete me. These people can help me on my journey. They can be, help being with the stepping stones, but they're never going to be the other half of me because I am whole on my own.
And that's important. I love that you said, like, bringing it to the table. Like that's what you got to do. You got to bring yourself to the table. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't continue to grow, can't continue to heal when you're at the table. No, absolutely. You can still do those things, but like you got to bring yourself and the love that you have for yourself. You got to bring that to the table. That's got to come to the table.
Yes.
Because if you're asking that person to bring your love for you to the table, if you're asking them to bring your love for yourself to the table, like that's how are they carrying their own love? You know what I mean? Like, how are they supposed to manage any of that or in essence, all of that, So, you're absolutely right. Like, you got to bring that to the table and like, you got to complete yourself as well. And you have to, I got to know how to love yourself, but like definitely. And that was one of the biggest things, for me is accepting the help as well. When you go through loss, when you're going through, the picking up the pieces process, right? some pieces are going to be sharper than others. Some pieces are going to be heavier than others. Some pieces are going to need a delicate touch to pick up. Some pieces are going to be hotter than others. Some pieces are whatever. Some pieces you're going to need help picking up. And when other people reach down into that water and pick up that piece for you, let them help you. That was something that was challenging for me to do in the beginning, was because I was constantly because I physically couldn't do things for myself. Like I physically couldn't do simple, basic things for myself. And from a mental health standpoint, we have this thing called ego that we want to do things for ourselves. And I love myself. I love the life that I live. I do. I was very obnoxious, chauvinistic, egotistical when I had my accident. I'm not shitting on myself. I'm just saying these are observations. And I was very prideful. And when it came time for someone to feed me food, I didn't know how to do that. I didn't know how to accept that. And I had to get used to the idea that, okay, it's okay for people to help you. It's okay to need help. Because when you're at your lowest, like it's okay to accept help. It just is. And that's one of the biggest things that I struggled with. And actually, if I'm going to add it to one of those, when you're grieving, that grieving list, that top 3 list, ground yourself, know where your network is. And what was the third one? Oh shit, what did I say what the third one was? Well, whatever that third one was, when your listeners listen to it, add this one to it. Add this one to it. It's okay to accept help. It's okay to accept help.
I think your third one was find hope, and like it comes.
Yes. Find hope, and it comes absolutely. And add this to it, man. Like, I always loved growing up. I grew up in a Christian home, and I always I heard the phrase a lot. God answers every prayer, and as I grew up. I started to understand that, like, how God can like answer my prayers isn't always through like miraculously sprouting up and handing me $1 million or handing me, this opportunity or something like that. Sometimes it's just that open arm hug that person was giving to you and you just passed on it. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it can be the most simplest things. When the universe or whatever you believe, doesn't matter. When the universe is giving you something, it's right in front of you. Your attention is there and you just decide, no, I'm going to pass on that. It's okay to accept those things. It really is, because like it's in essence, it's what you've been asking for. Just the packaging might not be what you expected.
Yes, true. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. And I think asking for help is one of the hardest things for me as well. I've struggled with, because there's always that want to feel like you kind of look like you have it all together, at least, even if you don't.
Oh yeah,
there's
the
like
perception
that's
of it.
the ego, right? You just want to look like you have it all neat and tidy, even though you don't. So asking for help is breaking that and being honest with both yourself and then somebody else, other people that you.
Yeah, hit me with another one.
What is your favorite part about change?
Ooh. My favorite part about it is probably the thing that scares me the most about it.
Ooh, I like that.
Which is both the unknown and its unpredictability. Because what is beyond that adjustment, that change, what is beyond that fence and beyond this, leap that I'm about to take, or that I've been thrust upon, or, that door that I've just been forced through, this new space is one, I can create whatever I want in this space. You know what I mean? Like am able to create whatever I want in this space. And guess what? When I start creating, I'm going to find different things that I couldn't create in the other space, but also I'm going to have to I also get to let go of things that no longer fit this space. And all of that is terrifying.
Absolutely. But yet so exciting.
That's the thing. It's also exciting. It's also exciting. So, when you're looking at a canvas, right? When you're looking at a canvas, actually, let me give him a more real example. When I had my accident, there were, I don't want to say like the people that I had in my life were best of the best and I knew who my people were, because I didn't. There were relationships that I had that I thought were the ones that to help me through this. And guess what? They didn't end up being the ones. They weren't able to handle what I was trying to handle. They weren't able to live in that new space. They weren't able to grasp that new space, understand it. They weren't made for that space. And guess what? That's hard, but that's okay. Like that was very difficult. I started being like, what the fuck? Like, who are these people? Why the fuck, why aren't you not around anymore? Like, how could you dog me like that? Like, treat me like that, abandon me? Like that's, it makes you question so many things about yourself, but also, the decisions that you made in the past. So, we just talked about that. But like, once I realized that like, okay, they weren't made for this. Yeah. Like, they weren't built for this. They weren't cut out for this. So what is this? Like, what's supposed to be here? If they're not supposed to be here, then what is this space supposed to actually look like without this person in this life, or without this change, in this new space? And so that creating process is something that, it takes time. It's not coming overnight, but when you're intentional with it, when you're intentional with your change and your process, man, you get to see so many beautiful fruits. You get to reap so many fruits from those seeds. But you got to lean into it. It sucks. You're going to fall. You're going to screw up. Yeah. Oh my God, it's going to be ugly. You hear about, the presentation of it when people do see on the internet, right? Someone's new job or new venture, right? Or, they move to a new city or something like that, like yourself, right? But what they don't see is, some people had to leave an abusive relationship to get to that point. Some people had to leave a very toxic environment with their family members to get to that point. Some people had to walk away from friendships and relationships, work environments that no longer served them. They could no longer meet the needs of the life that they were creating and the space that they were creating, or the space that they were bound for. Like, it's okay that, when you're walking a path in life, and some people's light is only shining so bright. Like, it's okay that their light doesn't shine as bright. It's okay. That's not a problem. That's not a slight at them. And it's not to boost your ego that your light is shining brighter. It's just that that's as far as they can go for some time with you. And as you continue, it's like, oh, you know what? It's okay. But guess what? That light is still shining. And,
no, absolutely. Not everybody is meant to go on your full long-term journey with you, right? There's pieces of it that people are supposed to help with, certain areas of it. And, going back to relationships needing to end without feeling like it's failure. I feel like that's a very beautiful mindset to get into, and just learn to accept the ebbs and flows of life and how people come and go, and just, change is a part of that. It can be scary, but embracing it fully is what helps me eliminate the fear aspect of change, because I feel like by embracing it and just jumping, radical acceptance, practicing that and just accepting what is happening, you're able to look at it with a positive frame of mind, a positive perspective. And I mean, life is 100% perspective. Your happiness is fully dependent on your perspective. It's not your situation. It is your perspective of your situation. We're all handed different cards, different
100%.
decks, however they may look. But, your
100%.
happiness and the way you view life is solely in your perspective. I feel like the me years ago, I constantly viewed my life being like an attack. I was like, this is a joke. This has to be a joke. What is this shit? I just felt like life kept dumping on me. There were so many heartbreaking things that happened that it was like back to back to back, right? I had gotten broken up with by somebody that I loved. He just went ghost, just literally left my life, no explanation.
Wow.
I tried to move into a new place and I got bed bugs infested. And I was just like, oh my God. And then something happened with my job and it was just so many things piling on. And I remember being like, what the fuck did I do in a past life to deserve this? And I woke, I was like, I was a piece of shit in my past life, bro. This is crazy. But I remember driving home one day from work and thinking, what if this is an attack? What if this is preparing me for bigger, more amazing things to come? What if this is breaking off the pieces of me that needed to be broken off in order to grow into the person that I am supposed to become? What if this is an attack? What if this is the plan? What if this is the plan? And I've just been shitting on it this whole time because my perspective was in the dumps. So I remember coming home to my roommates and I was like, guess what, guys, this is my new perspective. I don't think life is shitting on me. I don't think it's trying to hurt me. I think it's just my perception of it that's fucked up. And then I remember telling them my whole epiphany that I had, and they were like, say it again. We're so proud of you. Fuck yes. And it was from that moment on that I took control and took accountability for where my life was headed and understood that person that walked out of my life with no explanation, good riddance. They weren't meant for me. And the universe knew that. And it wasn't, at the time, obviously it felt like abandonment, but it was, it was preparing me for growth and moving people out of my way that were no longer aligned with me. I couldn't see it because my perspective was in the shitter. So
I love that so much. I do. I really, really do. Because the word that came to my mind, or the phrase that came to my mind, when you said that, was fluidity. I feel like you started to understand the fluidity that comes with life. Oh my goodness. Yeah. We are 70% water. The world is 70% water. It is constantly ebb and flow. It is constantly moving. It's a current. And when we try to put our own rigidity of thinking around something that is constantly trying to move, oh my goodness, it becomes chaotic. It's
absolutely.
You try to, figure out something that oh my God, it doesn't make sense. Guess what? It wasn't trying to make sense. It was just trying to be what it was meant to be, which is just constantly moving. And
just let it flow. Yeah.
Yeah. Just let it flow. Just let it flow. And
easier said than done, but
oh my God.
Let it flow.
All of this is easier said than done. None of this is easy, but it's that perspective that you get when you realize that I don't have to be the boat that's on the water. Mm-hmm. I am the water.
Yeah.
Water doesn't get seasick. It's water.
I love it. If you think you're the boat right now in your life, jump off. You're actually the water.
You're actually the water.
You're actually Moana.
It's 100%, man. You never stop being Moana. You never stop being Moana. You just didn't realize you were. You just didn't realize it, man. Oh my goodness, it's so true. And that's actually one of the things that I wanted to ask you about when it comes to loss and change. Actually, more specifically, loss. Okay, so I'm a visual person. Are you? Yeah.
We're water. We're not the boat. We're the water. We're outlets in a house. I can tell you're visual. Everyone knows you're visual.
Oh my gosh. I love it. I need it.
Oh no, it's amazing. You're painting beautiful pictures. Yes.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. I feel so seen when someone says that. Oh my God. I love it. So that being said, what do you visualize? What comes to mind when you think of loss. Can I throw you mine first as you think about yours?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
So visualizing loss, it's like a highlight reel for me that begins with getting cut from my my baseball team, my travel baseball team. And then it goes on to, leaving that and just doing basketball, then getting cut from the basketball team, not making it there, deciding and just sticking to swimming, then just swimming and football, track and field. Those were the for me. And then it's this like constant, it's very sharp. It happens very quickly, but it's all of these things all at once. And then it goes into my accident, and then it's, not being able to play football, not being able to play these sports the same way I used to be. And then it goes into, trying to be that certain type of person within relationships with my siblings, my brother, and my intimate relationships, and also relationship with my estranged relationship with my father. It's all like all of this. Like when I think of loss, all of that sharply just like goes right through my mind. But then what started to happen, I want to say maybe 6-7 years after my accident, I started to just see myself on a stage. What kind of stage? I don't know. It's an arena of some kind. I'm either playing football, I'm either playing basketball, I'm either running. It may not even be for an event that I'm running. I'm there. And I'm being applauded, but I'm not saying anything. I'm just there. And this is something I haven't shared with a lot of people. Before I say anything, this is actually very in depth because I've thought about this for a long time.
Yeah.
I write on the ground or in my hand in some instances when I've visualized this. I just write, I am. And that's it. And that's it. Like when I think about
that's like a whole ass fucking film. That's a short film on Pixar.
Yeah, that's one of those things at the beginning. I know, and it's like when I daydream, that's where I go. When I go to these segments where it starts off, with those earlier memories in life, but it gets to that point where it's just talking about like. I'm not trying to say I am loss. I'm not trying to say I am grief. I'm just saying that like. I don't know who I am without them.
Damn, that's powerful. And that's beautiful. It's cool to tap into other people's minds and how it works. I feel like I've asked people before, like, how do you view the week or the month or the year? And like, cause it's different for everybody, right? I'm actually curious what your view of it is.
So how do I look at, like, when I think about the year, what does it look like?
Yeah.
It's like physically in my mind. This is going to sound
in your mind. No, I think mine's weird.
Okay. If I'm talking about, so let me see if I get this straight. If I'm talking about what a layout of what a year looks like in my brain, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not, okay. I don't know how to draw this, but I think about when I was in elementary school. And I'm in the classroom and this image is stuck in my head for what a year looks like. It's just stuck there. And I can constantly see so if you're using your right hand, if you hold your right hand up, I count January, February, March, April, May. And as soon as I get to May, I'm at the top. And I'm on the right side. And then as I move over to the left side, it's June, July, August. It goes all the way down.
Interesting.
And I don't know why it is. And it's funny you say, like, I wonder what you think a year looks like. When I was talking to a buddy of mine, he was asking me, he was telling me, oh, hey, I had a surgery done in this month or that month or August. And I literally picked my hand up and I was going like this. For those of you that don't know, that Alyssa can still see me right now on camera, but I started to put my hand up and start counting. And he's like, what do you do? He stopped talking and was like, what are you doing? I was like, oh, sorry. I'm just trying to figure out where you were in the year. And I was like, oh, and it made me realize that like, oh, I've always done this. I have always done. That's what a year looks like in my, and I don't know why. I don't know, but I think it's from my earliest memories as a child, looking at a classroom calendar.
Yeah.
But like, yeah. So that's what, so what
that's
about,
so fascinating.
Yeah. What about you? Like, that, okay, I know that's not what you were expecting. I know that's not what you were expecting.
I don't think I'd be able to like predict anyone's answer because I think our imaginations are all so unique. Mine is, okay, so picture you're in space and there's just an empty abyss around. Not like a dark, scary abyss, but you look
you saw my face.
You're like, where are we going with this?
It was one of my worst fears.
Get me off this fucking ride.
Oh my God, being in empty space. I was like, oh, this is uncomfortable. Okay.
It's basically the months of, January to December, the full year spread out side by side. And it's just floating in the abyss. I can just see it from a distance. And my POV is in front of June. And I'm looking to the left if we're in the beginning months. And I'm looking to the right if we're in the following months. I'm in space with it.
You're standing on June? Like you're standing... I'm
standing in front of June. June's about like a meter in front of me. And then I'm looking to the left. So right now we're in February. So I'm looking to the left. And and then... Okay. And so I've always pictured it like that for as long as I can remember. And then I started asking people this. Maybe I'll start asking everybody who comes on the podcast this question because I'm actually really curious how everybody views it. Yeah. So it's not a scary abyss though. I know you got really, you jumped back there.
Oh yeah.
It's not scary. It's light. It's like almost cloudy and like you're kind of just in the sky. You're just in an abyss. I don't know how else to fucking explain it, but it's just, I'm looking at all the months and they're just like, it's just Jan, Feb, March. Like, it's not a picture. It's just like kind of the words all laid out. And I'm just kind of looking to the left right now because we're in February. Fuck, that's a trip to explain that.
Oh my gosh, that sends you. That really does. Well, it sent me as soon as you started talking. I was like, oh my God, what? That sounds terrifying. But
it's not.
I can see it. I can see it. And as do you move? Like
No.
I don't move.
No, I don't.
Okay,
move.
yeah, I don't move. I'm always seeing it. I'm not in it. I'm always seeing it. Okay.
Yeah. And for the days of the week, it's similar. It's like a whiter backdrop. And the days of the week are almost like files. Like you can see like Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Oh, you can't see me. I have my camera off. But like, I'm kind of standing like Saturdays to my right and I'm staring at it like at a diagonal angle, looking up at the week. And I'm looking at each day. But I always kind of stay near Saturday.
Okay. Saturday is always to my right. Saturday is always to my right. And interesting enough, I think I'm always standing on like Thursday.
Really?
I'm always standing on Thursday because like Monday seems so far from me. Always. Monday seems so far from me. Sunday, I always feel closer to Sunday. I always feel closer to Sunday for some reason.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow, this is fascinating. I like this. I'm definitely going to ask every guest on the podcast because I'm curious.
Yeah.
If everybody thinks like this, or if there's people that's like, I just don't picture it at all. Like, I wonder.
That's one thing I heard, that
not everybody has this like kind of communication with their mind, right?
Yeah. I heard that like,
same.
People don't hear themselves. Like, people don't have an inner dialogue. And I was like, what?
My ex was like that. He couldn't relate when we were sitting around the campfire, me and my friends, we were talking about that inner dialogue that we have and like how we talk to ourselves and we communicate. He was like, I don't have that. I'm like,
oh my God. That I find just
That's scary, bro.
That's
I'm talking about
scary.
a dark abyss. Yeah.
That's the abyss. That's real abyss. Like imagine just, I can't imagine.
I feel like that's what disconnection looks like, but that's not fair. I'm sure that he's not disconnected, maybe he is, but like that would be what it would feel like to me, disconnection from my inner voice, my inner person, my inner analog. Yeah. Is it an analog? Is that?
Oh my God. Yeah. I'm not 100% sure. Inner dialogue.
Dialogue. Yeah.
Yeah.
But what's analog? Hey,
analog is like, oh fuck, I'm not a.
Is it on imagery? I'm going to look it up.
Yeah. Look
analog
up. Yeah.
Let me see.
When you get to the point with your cast and you got someone that can just look stuff up for you, that'll
be nice.
That'll be so nice.
Manifesting next year, relating to or using signals or information repressed by a continuously variable physical. You know what? That's a lot of words right now. Fuck.
That's a lot of words. Yes, but like that's the abyss. That scares me. That definitely does. Scare me. And it's not to say that like there's something wrong with those people, because I heard the numbers like 50% or something like that. And I was like, what? Like 50% of the people that just don't have, they're just not thinking to themselves, or I just don't know how you
like what's going on up there.
Like, what is that? Like,
or maybe they are and they just have never identified it as themselves. So they don't, it doesn't resonate with them in the same way. Oh fuck, that's intense. Yeah.
That's a trip.
Right. We just spiraled. I love it.
See, but this is what visualization is. And that is in part what helps me through change. Is it's okay. Now, I'm not trying to say sit there and daydream till the cows come home, because you have to actually, do some work, do some actual implementation. Like you have to actually do the things. Like you have to write down a plan, an idea that you have, and try to implement. But visualizing where you want to be, what you want that life to look like that is something I think that has definitely helped me through a lot of grief, because it reminds me in those daunting, feeling like bottomless moments that this is temporary, and that I'm looking to, it gives your mind something to look forward to. I'm not saying it's like a healthy distraction from what is. And like, don't live there, like kind of like how I used to when it came to, sleeping, constantly just going to sleep and, dreaming and, just being okay in my dreams. But I got to a point where, and this is something I actually said, and I think I owe this to the movie Interstellar. No, not Interstellar. I think it is a Christopher Nolan movie though, but no, not Interstellar. Oh shit, what is it?
I feel like I can.
Not Interstellar. Inception.
I'm so close.
Inception.
Yes.
Inception. Yes. Inception. I got to a point where I said to myself, I want my dreams to be envious of my reality. Like I want my dreams to be the thing that the reality wakes up to, or that's my dream. Yeah, I want my reality.
Y'all should be writing this down. This is dope. Yeah, right. Get your pens out.
Because it's like beautiful. Yeah. When I do, it's like when you make that switch, right? When you make that switch, it's like, okay, now I want to live my life as if I have those things that I'm dreaming about.
Yeah.
Like now, now we're no longer saying why not. We're saying right now. You know what I mean? You're not saying, oh, I should have done this. Why aren't you doing it right now? Like, why not right now? Like what could have been? No, what can be? What is? Like you make those switches, and that's part of when you bounce back, especially relationships that I've had. I did have those bouts with those fights back and forth with was this a waste of time? You know what I mean? Yeah. Like what did I do here? Or one of the things I thought of was a lot of my friends got married, and my girlfriend at the time, when I was going through a lot of those weddings, was I was that couple. I was part of that couple that was fighting at weddings, like arguing.
Gotcha.
Oh my God. Brutal. And I'm embarrassingly enough, I'm not even saying like 1 or 2 weddings, bro, like multiple. Like one summer I had like 8 weddings to go to. It was like almost every wedding. And like,
Yeah, that's cringeworthy.
It's so cringe, but I try not to. And this is the part of the acceptance, the process of acceptance piece is I try not to hate myself. I try not to shit on that version of myself. I try not to be like, oh my God, you're an idiot for wasting your time doing that, like going through that and putting yourself through that. No, you were going through something. You felt at that time that connection was something that you wanted. You realize now it wasn't connection. It was just an unhealthy attachment.
Yeah.
You have become the person you are now because you can look back and see yourself for, that's who you were then. And it's all you. It's still you. Yeah. It's all you. It's still Dan. That's where
you did the best with what you knew at that
exactly.
time.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. 100%. Okay. So back to your question.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Good
Let's
job.
listen to that again.
That's good job.
That was a fun little trail we just
oh, yes.
Okay, so you asked me what I think of when I think of loss.
Yes.
Immediately I think of me falling into again the black abyss. And then I think of me standing in whatever home I'm living in at the time and actively trying to pick up the pieces. Not even visually like leaning over and grabbing the pieces like you mentioned earlier, just rebuilding who I am as an individual. Because a lot of my loss, when I think of loss, I think of heartbreak, because that is where the majority of my loss has come from, is relationships ending and learning to pick up the pieces and learning to rebuild who I am as an individual.
Yeah.
So that's immediately what I think of is another heartbreak. And I think of just the ways that I've coped in past and how I would do that all over again.
It's interesting that neither of us mentioned like physically, like someone dying. You know what I mean?
No.
It's about, because it's not about like, because I feel like a relationship with a person, even if you've lost them physically, and I heard this quote recently, like death isn't the end of a relationship. Like it's not like dying isn't, how a relationship ends. Like you have an everlasting relationship with everyone all the time. The stranger that you see on the street, you have a relationship with that person. You're literally standing on a planet with that person. Like, but what is the degree of the relationship? What is the magnitude of it? And like, what is it, the one that you have with yourself? So I find that interesting that neither of us said that. But I like yours. It's like in the space, and it's about picking up the pieces in that space. But it's like the space itself changes too, depending on where you're living too. So it's
I would visualize my future self roaming around the house and doing things that would actively help rebuild what I've lost. Yeah.
I like it. And like, no. I do like that. Cause like I said, I'm so visual, and, so much of the time that I spent by myself in the hospital, or even just like when I'm, going through breakups or anything like that. So much of it is thinking about, both what could have been, right. But then what is like, how am I, the question, how do I do this without them? You know what I mean? Like, how do I, how do I do this without them? And one of those,
how do I reshape my life?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And one of those is, it coincides with identity. And I think when it comes to loss, that is something that I feel like people struggle with, because when you lose a girlfriend or boyfriend, or, you lose your partner, you break up after, 5, 6, whatever, how many years, right? It's like, you did all those things that you did together with this person. Is that my identity? It's like, is this who I was? Is this who I am? And then you lose that. And it's like, who am I? Like, who am I? Who was I before? Who was I during? Who am I now? It's like, well, I think the simplest answer is it's still you.
Yeah.
Like
and you didn't lose all of yourself. I think the most comforting thing I heard too is it takes two in a relationship. So you were 50% of that relationship. In some cases, maybe more, but you're 50% of that relationship. Yeah. A couple times I've been about 80, 90 there, but 50%. Of the relationship you brought to that. So, and you get to leave with 100% yourself. So that's huge. And that was the difference, even with this last breakup versus my other ones, giving them that title of they're my world and they're everything. And how could I even so much as breathe without them, when in reality, I'm like, what the fuck? I'm certainly self-sufficient. So this past relationship was a lot easier for me to cope with, because I was like, okay, I get to leave with myself, which is like, I win. I'm awesome. Like, I'm amazing. Yes. I bring so much to the fucking table, and I know my worth now. And it's not going to be of course it's sad in the sense your relationship ended, you're grieving the loss of that person. But for me, I feel like heartbreak and breakups and loss in any way is such a beautiful opportunity to experience rebirth. And,
yes. And
that's huge.
Part of, when I mentioned, dying isn't the end of a relationship, but like there is a dying component to a lot of things in life. Like that concept exists in so many areas of life, because in order for something to be reborn, something has to die. Like, what I mean? Like, that's all this life, literally for the last million or so years, right? Like even on a, bacterial level, right? Death, rebirth, the cycle. It's always happening. You know what I mean? Like, we're shedding skin literally as we are sitting here. We are shedding skin, and new skin cells are forming. It's newness always. It's always happening. And so you as a product, like as a being, you are constantly changing. This is, kind of full cycle here. You are within these relationships. It's not to say that like you weren't you when you were there. It's your self-worth. You're still just as worthy as you were when you started it. You're just as worthy when you were in it. You realize now that like, at the end of it, it's like, okay, wait a minute. Was I accepting what I was worth then? No, probably not. Maybe not, okay. And that's okay. But it's not to say that like, you deserve that moving forward. It's, you understand, you see that now. And that's part of it. Like some of that realization, some of that, going through that had to die for you to get here. It did.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's death and rebirth and loss and change in all forms. So.
Yeah.
I have one more question for you. And then do you have any more questions for me after? Because we can finish with just this one for you. That's no problem.
Yeah, that's pretty much.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Yeah, I do have one. Do you want me to go first?
Whatever you want.
All right. I have one for you. Now, this is something. So you watched my video, right?
Yes.
And I mentioned in it, right, about taking. I don't know if I mentioned this in that, taking notes, like in conversations with people. Did I mention that?
Oh, Dan.
Okay. It's okay. All right. Let me
you may have.
Let me refresh it. So, oh God, my goodness, I can't remember. And I made the thing.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I've been doing, and when my friends hear this on here, I'm kind of outing myself when I say this. Busted, Dan. For the last, I want to say 9 years, eight or 9 years now, in conversations, I have taken notes on things that are said. And do you remember when I asked you, like, what does your method of self-care look like?
Yeah.
What mine looks like now, and for the past several years, but I had to build this kind of this database up. I've been taking notes of profound things that my friends and things I hear from conversations from, let's say I'd be at a coffee shop and I overhear someone in line say something, or I'm at the grocery store. I've written stuff in this thread
from funerals, like when I hear someone with a eulogy, weddings, when I hear someone in their speech, conferences, when I went to convocations for, girlfriends, and, the speaker would say something. I was like, oh man, I'm writing that down. Like, this is all in this quote log that I have.
That's cool. I like that.
And so it is a list of things that my peers have. So a lot of it is my peers have said. And when I'm in my, down moments, my weak moments, my very fragile, slow moments, I will revert to this thing and I will read something from it. Do you want me to read something from it?
I do. This is a really good idea. I usually just document like dumb shit my friends say to like reference and just like laugh at, but this is good. I'm going to have to start doing this.
I have done that. I have a particular friend in mind who she says some of the most outlandish shit that comes out of her mouth. I'm like, I want to live in your brain for an hour because I don't think I could do a full day. I just want to live in there.
Just an hour.
Just an hour. I think I'll have too much if I go in there longer. But so, wait, did I just lose you on the Zoom? No, I didn't. No, I'm still there. Okay, good. So and so I plan on putting this on a canvas, but I'm not going to put who said it beside it. I plan on like having this written out on like a wall or something like that. Maybe that one behind me. And, I'm not going to put who said what, but I'll go to this and I will read things from it. And so one of the things that my friend, there's over 60 of these things. Like there's so many of them. One of the things that my friend had said to me, this was after a relationship had ended. She said to me, be the one swinging. And I was like, okay. And what we were referencing there was like in baseball, how like, when you don't take too many pitches just because you think that, that's not the right one or this isn't the right one. Swing. Like, don't just stand there. You got to swing. You have to swing. Yeah. You're in there. Swing. Be the one swinging. Don't be the one in a relationship that just like takes what's coming just because it is. Like, you have to be, the point is to be intentional about it. Be intentional about it. So I wrote that one, just like be the one, be the one swinging. This one, I like reading this one when I'm having thing days too. A friend of mine, her son, when we would start, him and I, we would start hanging out because I'd come around the house every now and then him and I just start, doing missions on ourselves. We just go on our little adventures, right? Before he didn't when we met, he didn't understand the concept of being paralyzed. Like he didn't grasp the whole idea that like, I don't walk today, which means I won't walk tomorrow, which means, you know what I mean? Like it just like, he thought, oh, you'll be walking tomorrow, won't you? And so one of the things he would say to me every time he would see me was, he's like, hey, did you walk today? And I was like, no, man. Aww. And then he'd go, I believe, he's like, maybe tomorrow. I was like, yeah, maybe tomorrow. And
that's cute.
So I would write that. I wrote that down. I wrote down that he's like, I believe you'll walk tomorrow. And like, cause he always had that energy. And it reminds me that like, that's the part of that hopefulness, right? It's like, oh, you know what I mean? Like hope comes in the morning, man. It's just like, be hopeful for tomorrow. Like be hopeful for it. I don't live in tomorrow cause you'll miss today, but like be hopeful for it. Do you want me to give you one more?
Beautiful. Yeah. Give me one more.
This one I think is funny. So obviously you remember blackberries. Did you ever have one?
Like blackberries, like the fruit?
The phone. The phone. The actual phone. Yeah.
I've certainly eaten a blackberry. Yes, I did have a, yeah.
Okay. So do you remember the transition from, because I know you have an iPhone now. Do you remember the transition that people went from blackberries to iPhones? And some people, myself, were very resistant towards getting an iPhone. I was like when a new BlackBerry came out, when iPhones had already been out, I was getting a new one, and people were like, "Oh my god, why are you throwing?" They're like, "What are you doing? This is a sinking ship, bro. Like, what are you doing?" And a friend of mine, we were having this conversation one day, and she hit me with, she goes, "Dan, like, no, you got to let that go. Like, no more BlackBerry energy." And I was like, Oh, true. And what that translates to is like, let go of the things that no longer serve you. Like they don't serve you anymore. Like it's okay to let that go. Stop holding on to something that is busted up, bro. It ain't doing what it's supposed to be doing. It's giving you more grief than it is joy. Like no more BlackBerry energy, bro. Like it's okay.
Although BBM was fire.
Oh,
is that what it's called? Yeah, that was fun.
Was legendary. And I thought it was safe for women, especially because you didn't have to give a dude your number and he couldn't call you on it.
Yeah, like, true.
He couldn't call you on it. Like you got your BBM, you were safe. It was just
and
there was no way for a guy to like stalk you because like buddy didn't have your phone number. You just give him your BBM. You give him your PIN.
Super true.
I know.
So yeah, that would be a hard one to let go of course, but the iPhones are beast.
Oh man. But yeah,
I love it. That's a really good idea. That's a really good idea.
Mm-hmm.
I have a whole episode I could do on the dumb shit my friends have said, but I'll start recording the good shit too.
Yeah.
Okay, so last question for you, and then we'll wrap this beautiful episode up. What is the greatest loss you have ever endured, and how did you cope with it?
The greatest loss I've ever endured, and how did I cope with it? I could easily say, you know what? It's an obvious one, but not for the reasons that you would think. Oh shit, I might get emotional on this one.
Good, let it out.
Losing my ability to walk was something that happened before I understood something about myself. Was that I am a very, when love languages came out, like the understanding of love languages.
Yes. I
did not know at the time that physical touch was my love language. I love hugs. For obvious reasons, COVID was very tough for me in that regard. But touching people, holding hands, caressing someone, cuddling, sex is great, but like, oh my God, pillow talk for me is like the shit, man. Like I love that stuff. But before, I didn't know that about myself. And so losing that about me, about my, losing that capability, losing that privilege to walk and, open my hands fully and, hold things and hold someone. It is a loss that I've continued to have to grieve because it's never one that like I said, it's not transactional. It's not one that I said, oh, I'm over it. I'm good to go. It is one that I continuously have to engage with and, remind myself. So I try to find different ways of engaging, of coping with that loss and how I do it is with words. That is how and why I am the way I am when it comes to my words. I try to be as expressive and I try to get to a certain depth in my conversations. I try to go somewhere within conversations because that physical connection that I am lacking, have been lacking, is something that I always miss. I love being held. I love holding people. I love touching people, but because I don't have that anymore, or not anymore, but to that capacity,
right?
It is something that I like being able to comfort people with the words that I speak and the powerfulness of those words. So it's I try to find words to touch people almost as if like I was having them.
Damn, that's very heartbreaking, but very beautiful. You always put a beautiful spin on everything. I feel like you're the master of turning your pain into power. And that's one of the things I admire so much about you. Because you're like, I'll never quit.
No,
I'll always come out on top, you know?
Yeah, I was born on top, bro. I was born on top. Literally, actually, because when my mom had a C-section and I'm a twin, so I was born on top. My mom, I came out first, so yeah, I was.
That's hilarious. You were literally born on top.
I was literally born on top.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing all that you did today. Thank you for being so authentic. Thank you for being you. That's why we all love and care about you and look up to you as much as we do. But
we talked about this. I was like, when you hype someone, it's like, yeah, and
Are you blushing?
Always. You can't tell. You can't tell. Oh yeah, for your listeners, yeah, I'm black, by the way. Surprise! Oh,
I love it. I love it.
Oh,
Dan, you're the best. You're the fucking best. This was really amazing to make. You were a wonderful first guest. This has been so much fun. We're over 2 hours recording.
Oh, fuck off, actually?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
That's beautiful.
Jokes. Yes. Well, my God, thank you for having me. Stop by anytime or, please, let me stop by anytime.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, please. Absolutely. I'll let you know if I'm ever in your neighborhood too.
Yes. Oh, my goodness. So, yeah. Oh, yeah. Thanks again. And to
absolutely,
your listeners,
Dan.
Do your thing. Keep on swinging out there. And no more blackberry energy, anybody. Nobody.
That's so funny. I'm still dead that I thought you meant the fucking fruit. I'm like, yeah, I've had a blackberry.
yeah, bro. Have lots of those. Eat those. Oh my goodness, eat those.
Absolutely. And for any of the listeners that want to find your social media and follow along with your journey, do you want to drop how they can?
So you can follow me at DJ Edwards03. You can follow Dan and Dan, our podcast. Yes, his name's also Dan. We are Coffin Over Comfort Zone. You can listen to our podcast on any wherever you listen to podcasts. Definitely go check out Alyssa's episode. I don't know which number it is, but it is one of our uncomfortable conversations. We have guests on and talk about real shit. So go listen to Alyssa's episode and then come check out this one. And then if you just obviously finishing this one, you can jump over and see that one, right? So
I'm actually trying to pull up which one it was. Which number it was, just to help them find it. But oh geez.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, let them know.
Oh,
but,
episode 25, I think. Episode 25.
There we go.
Yeah, the uncomfortable community. Alyssa Bette, mindful mode. Yeah, it's interesting because to listen. Yeah, you should always listen to that one first because it's just where I was at in my life 2 years ago, but it's interesting to see it come full circle and now picking up the pieces from where my life was at that point. It's very fascinating.
Yes.
But thank you so much, Dan, and enjoy the rest of your day, however you choose to spend it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. I appreciate it.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. I loved having you. If you wish to support this podcast, please follow us so you never miss an episode. You can also find us on social media at Full Minded Podcast. Once a month, I will do an episode where I answer questions that have been sent in. Please visit our website at www.fullmindedpodcast.com to submit all your questions. If you wish to be a guest on this podcast, please fill out the form on our website to apply. Your continued support means the world, so thank you again for taking the time out of your day to tune into Full Minded with Alyssa Bette. Until next time, be kind to yourselves and remember that there is power in owning our imperfect and messy lives. It's all a part of the human experience, and you're not alone in it.